That's something that just can't be emulated. By the time we're done here, we will make a case for investing in a physical Cisco lab environment. And know that I'm not just trying to be a jerk and be like, the only way you can learn Cisco is by buying equipment or else you won't. It's not true. It's not true. You can learn Cisco in a simulated or an emulated environment. I've just been teaching Cisco a really long time. I've seen a lot of students, and I know the ones that have the gear have something happen that just makes a lot of things click a little sooner. So my goal is not just to be like, here's why you want to buy, and I know that's what's on the screen is here's why you want to buy a physical lab, but it's more so I want to show if you don't have a physical lab, here's some of the things that you'll want to fill in, and I want to end this video by talking about the best simulator that I think can get you almost there if you don't have the physical equipment. So more on that in just a second. But let me start off by talking about my very, very first job, because I had a little bit of an unfair advantage. And what I mean by that is, I guess my very, very first job was, I was like 10 years old, and some friends of my parents said, hey, we'll pay your son $100, which even today I'm like, $100, that's insane. So imagine, what would that be, like 30 some years ago? Offering a 10-year-old $100, I'm like, I could buy so many video games to pick weeds in their backyard. And my parents drove me out there, and I still, like there's very few things I remember from my childhood. I remember that because my hands were bleeding. There's so many weeds. I got about 2 hours in. I'm like, can you call my mom? It's not worth $100. Like, I was crying. It was terrible. So my very, very next first job was network cabling. I was like 13 years old. I can't even remember who it was. He's like, hey, I need a second pair of hands. Can you come along? And I remember doing it. Again, I don't remember too much about it. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just moving this wire through the wall. There you go. Ta-da, I got my $20. The reason I say that is later on, when it came back, and I got into the network world, something clicked for me where I'm like, okay, that's what I was doing. It didn't make sense at the time, but running cable did something where I started like, okay, so that all makes sense, right? Because what a lot of people don't realize is there's something known as the curse of knowledge. It's actually documented in books. I didn't just make this up. The curse of knowledge means that when you learn something, it's then easy to you, and it's really hard to understand somebody not understanding it. I mean, think about your kids. They do something dumb. You're like, like, what were you thinking? Well, they were thinking the best that they knew how, most of the time anyway. And they just didn't have the experience that you did. For you, it's so simple. It's so hard to know what it's like to not know what it's like to add. Right? To multiply, to divide. It's just, that's known as the curse of knowledge. So a lot of people, when they get into network cabling, when they get into physical hardware, they're kind of like, you just kind of get it because it's all evaporated in there. I taught Cisco in the live classroom environment for probably 5 years before I started doing the online environment. And I got to see student after student that was just staring at the device going, okay, now, that's a switch, right? Because it has a lot of ports on it. That's a router, right? And so I'm so blessed to be able to take that in here. That's what I'm talking about is there's a gap that you have. You can see the icon on the screen of the switch and the router, but there's something when you actually look at the device. I mean, look with me right here. I know. I've got my kids decorated this whole thing. But if you look, this is a switch. This is a router. Big difference between the two. That's something that you have to experience for yourself because there is something magical when you cable your first connection, when you set up your home network. And I haven't even gone there yet. I've just been talking about seeing the gear. The best thing that you can do is take one of those routers, take one of those switches and set up your home network for this. Oh my goodness. Can I show you something? Look at this. You see this? I don't know if you can see it. I'm way over here. This is a webcam. I literally pulled this out of the box. I still have the anchors in the wrapper, in the plastic, because we're setting up video surveillance for our kids so that we can watch them when we get there. There's just, when you do that, you're like, that was useful. That was awesome. That switch made that happen with that wireless access point going through that router that I had to do a port forward so that I could get to that webcam from the internet. Are you following? I know. It's just there's something magical when you set up your home network and you blow it up, and your wife's upset at you because she can't watch your show now because you took down the network, and you feel that like, oh, okay, let me hang on, hon, let me get this. You feel that stress because you know what? That's going to happen. It's like the Matrix, Neo, he falls the first time. It happens to everybody. You're going to cause a network outage. You're going to feel that stress in the real world. So why not do it with someone you're committed to the rest of your life so that they won't fire you, at least hopefully not. So that's the kind of experience that I'm talking about. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the CBT Nuggets IT Expert Cabling Series. This was a series I created because of this need. So there's not just the physical gear, but there's a whole realm of cabling. And what I did was I created a series where we walked into a brand new building and we cabled it from the ground up, mounted racks, UPS power supplies, everything. So if you're really wanting to dive into that world, which is a great entry point if you're looking for a job, there's a lot of opportunity there. You might check out that series. The last few things that I'm going to mention, my one warning right here, buy only what you need, not the dream network. And this isn't even the dream network. The reason I'm saying that is I had a student, this was back when I was teaching in the classroom environment. I've been proclaiming this, set up a home lab for decades, literally, when people are getting into the Cisco world. And I was talking to this guy, we'll call him Rex. And I was talking to Rex, and I was like, you got to do this. He came back actually 2 weeks later. He's like, let me just show you a picture of my home lab. I'm like, yeah. And he shows me, and it literally is a rack of equipment. I mean, like, not even, it was way more than that, just stocked full of Cisco gear. And he's like, I took out a student loan to get this stuff. And I'm like, that's awesome. What are you going to do with that, Rex? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just, I'm building the lab. And I'm like I feel terrible because I'm like, oh my, and because I know he's not going to use that much stuff. I'm going to show you in this skill exactly what to get. It's small. Don't take out if you're taking out a student loan, you've gone too far. Let me show you my original stuff. Now, this was back in the 1990s, late 90s. I bought, and this, even back then it was old, a Catalyst 1924. I bought a few of these. These were 10 megabit per second switches. I had Cisco 2501s, which, by the way, this was before Ethernet was a thing, like normal Ethernet, that wasn't using thin net and thick net connectors. So I had to buy these little transceivers that converted the thin net connector over to RJ. I mean, that's the kind of era that we're talking about. And these things were, back then, $200-ish. This one was the killer one because this one had two thin net, which you could convert to Ethernet connections. This was in the range of $400. And that's why I'm like, oh my goodness, guys, you got to listen to me because you can build a whole lab, like all this stuff. Hang on, let me show you. So look at this stuff. My lights are kind of dim, sorry. But lots of stuff, lots of routers, lots of switches. And I ended up putting all that together. I must have paid maybe $200, $300, which was the price of what I would buy one router for back in the day. There's tons of lab equipment. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So last thing, I promised that I would mention the platform that you can use if you can't get physical gear. And again, there's 1,000 reasons for that. I'm going to write it in nice big letters. It's called Packet Tracer. Cisco created it, and it is phenomenal. It was originally designed for the Cisco Network Academy. That's the students who were taking community college classes to learn Cisco. They were the ones that got this originally. No one else did until Cisco allowed people to get it. They opened it up to the world to where you can just go on the website and register. Matter of fact, Keith Barker, a fantastic instructor here at CBT Nuggets, has created an entire skill showing you how to get Packet Tracer, how to set it up, how to create topologies, all kinds of stuff. If you can't get the real gear, that's the next best thing. So there it is. I've made my case. I've done what I can do. I stand in front of the court and say, make your verdict. We rule in favor of the physical lab. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.